Now what we are gonna do, what we're gonna learn about some concepts on the REST APIs. Any idea on, I mean, since you are a tester, any idea on what is REST APIs? I mean, you must have, I mean, tried from the Postman as well, how to run the REST APIs. So
Yeah,
anything, I mean, I mean, how does they work?
no, instead of doing it from the front end,
Yeah,
we use these APIs or the
yeah,
URIs to hit the server and fetch the reason code or the data and validate those things.
yeah. Using some of the annotations,
Annotations. Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, first thing what you need to learn is what is the full form of a URI?
It is URL plus the endpoint.
No, it
Or
says Uniform Resource
resource.
Identifier.
Yeah,
I mean, on what resource do I need to take my endpoint to, right?
yeah,
So URI stands for Uniform Resource Identifier, and it's the official name for those things you'll see on the time on the web page, that HTTP localhost 8080. So which is the URI of the home page, right? Just
yeah,
like World Wide Web as well. So let's say
yeah,
www dot and something like that, or HTTP. So these are the identifier which would take us to the endpoint. Okay,
yeah.
now coming to the concept of REST APIs. So, I mean, Spring also provides a framework for writing the REST APIs. So, I mean, I'll just give you background first. So, there are two ways to write REST APIs. One is using JAX-RS. So, JAX-RS is a library.
Okay.
Okay, it has two implementations. One is Jersey. I mean, not two implementation. There are a lot of implementations for this particular library. So, Jersey is the commonly used implementation that we use. So two ways we can use the REST APIs. So this is Jersey. So when we will just I mean add the Jersey dependencies in the form.xml, we would be able to write the REST APIs using Jersey. And second thing is the Spring REST. So how we would be writing the REST APIs using Spring REST. So Spring framework also give us the uh, methods or give us the annotations to write the web services. So have you, I mean, do you know any difference between the SOAP? Have you heard about SOAP versus
Yeah,
REST? So any difference between SOAP and REST? I mean, SOAP is also a web service. Then
yeah. SOAP
why we are
is
going
also
for
an
REST?
XM. Yeah, SOAP is mainly on the this one XML based
Yeah.
uh, server and client interaction, and it's
Okay.
very what to say, bit
Complex,
huge,
huge and
complex,
complex and not easy to read, and
not easy
even
to
not
read.
even easy
And
to parse.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's the first reason that we generally don't go for REST APIs. Another I mean advantage of REST APIs. So what's the full form of REST first?
I have heard.
Okay, so it's representational state transfer.
Yeah,
So with SOAP, what we are doing with SOAP, everything is XML, and let's say there are two applications which needs to communicate with each other. Na, why what is the reason of web services?
yeah,
Why we use web services? Like you and I are talking, we are talking here in English or maybe in Hindi or some other language. So this is how two humans interact with each other. But when the application wants to interact, so this is the language in which the application interact with each other.
yeah,
Okay, so let's say, I mean, in future you want to create a web application, and what you want the Google Maps to be embedded in your application. So would you write the complete Google Maps application, or you would just use the Google Map API, and you would say, okay, Google, please give me your API. I want to use some of your methods. So when we would be making our web application or maybe any Android application, so we what we are saying that, okay, I have got this API from Google. Google has exposed these APIs for me, and I can just use anytime and embed these in my application.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the concept of REST APIs, and why we are using why we are not using SOAP, because SOAP services are tightly bind. Okay,
Yeah.
tightly binded. So you know what is WSDL?
No.
Web Service Description Language.
Yeah. I have heard this.
Okay, so what happens in WSDL is, so let's say two applications want to interact with each other. So I'm right now talking about SOAP only. Okay, just to give you a background on why we are going for REST.
Yeah.
Okay, so SOAP, I mean, these are tightly bind. Web Service Description Language is the full form. And now let's say there is an application A and another there is an application B. Okay, so application A has a method, let's say called get A. Some method is there, which is like what functionality is giving is functionality to use Google Map. Okay, and now let's say there is an application B. Now these two application wants to communicate with, I mean, this is deployed on server 1. This application is deployed on server 1, and this application is deployed on server 2. So containers are different for both the applications. Okay, I think
Yeah.
you know now what are servers and everything. So server 1 application A is deployed and server 2 application B is deployed. And now the application 2 wants to use this functionality. Application 2, I mean, application B is making some of the functionality, and what it wants, there is a API exposed from this application, and application B wants to use it. So what this application would be doing? So there is a contract between application 1 and application 2. Okay, that
Yeah.
what application 1 would be saying, please use my method get A. I mean, there would be 100 methods here in the application A. Okay, but when it's exposing this one, so it would give a contract to application 2 that you can use my get A. And how that contract is made? That contract is made in XML. I told you in the first class that why we are using XML for data interchange,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And this contract is called WSDL. Everything clear on how applications, I mean, let's say how SOAP applications communicate.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the what is the problem with SOAP? You already told me the problem with SOAP was the XML.
Yeah.
So how this contract is made? It's based on the XML, and how these applications are interacting with each other is a XML based configuration. Okay.
Yeah.
So problem with XML is if you want to use some data, you have to just, I mean, create into a DOM structure, document object model,
Yeah.
to get the element, to get the parent, to get the child, and it looks very tidy and I mean not concise code. I mean obviously you are saying that it the XML would be making things quite complex,
Yeah.
right? So now for that what we are doing is we are using another technology which is called REST technology. Okay, and why we are, I mean, using REST technology? Because it's preferred over the robust simple SOAP technology. It would be using less bandwidth, simple, flexible, and everything in REST API you must have heard of on it would be string.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JSON kind of.
Yes. Everything would be in string format. You know the full form of JSON. What's the JSON?
I am not aware of the full form of JSON.
Okay, no issues. So I mean, you know what I mean, what we use in JSON. Do we use integer? Do we use string? Do we use long?
We can use we use the key value pair to
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So,
fetch data.
I mean, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay. And everything would be string
Okay.
based on key value pair. Okay. So let's say if I'm making an object, let's say there is a course object or there is a student object. Let's say student is the one. And how the JSON would be created for this one? I'll just tell you how JSON gets created. So student is one. So let's say ID. I mean, you must have seen this while testing, Naveen,
Yeah.
and roll number 1, 2, 3. So this is how the JSON would look like. Okay, so it's JavaScript object notation. Everything in REST APIs that we would be doing would be in the JSON format only.
Yeah.
I mean, any confusion here?
No.
Okay, so I'll just tell you. I mean, how easy it is. Uh, have you made this one so that you remember?
Yeah, I have made this.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, okay. So let's say I have got a client here and this is a server. Okay, so I'm how the REST APIs would work. Client would send the request to server, and how the server would be replying us. It would be replying us. So I mean with the REST, what is another advantage of REST? I mean, can you use XML with the REST?
Sorry.
I mean, I've told you that. I mean, I've told you that with the SOAP web services, you can just write the XML based configuration or XML the contract would be made. But
Yeah.
in the REST, we are using JSON.
Yeah.
So, any idea that can we use XML in the REST web services?
Yeah. I think we can use yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, we can use the XML as well.
Yeah.
So, XML, JSON, plain text, anything we can write. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just a client server thing that how the REST APIs are communicating with each other. So how it these are working is Naveen. A request is sent from the client to the server, okay, in the form of a web URL. And
Yeah.
web URL would be HTTP localhost 8080/Naveen/ID. So it should give me all the IDs present in the database. Okay, so there are some HTTP operations for that as well, which are really important. Okay.